Hi, I'm Nate. I'm a principal at Inkbuilt Architecture here in Portland.
And I'm Andrea, also a principal at Inkbuilt Architecture. Inkbuilt was started a couple years ago by actually three of us. Melinda's not here today, but just as involved. The three of us started Inkbuilt really with a focus on prioritizing affordable housing, but not just from an affordability standpoint. Where our heart truly lies is actually in sustainable design. That's actually how we all met, and it's really important to us. And so our goal is always to infuse and amplify sustainable design in a way that directly benefits people. We are constantly working on a spectrum from idealistic to realistic. There's a reason why things have been done a certain way all the time. And, 9 times out of 10, there's that reason, and it's because it makes the most sense. It's the most cost-effective way. It's the most simple way to construct something. But there's always that 1 or 2 times out of 10 that you can ask that hard question. You can really take a more idealistic approach, and you can actually make a huge impact in a project. And some of that is, or most of that, is usually from these partnerships that we've been able to have with both service providers and our clients and organizations through grants. And through various means and methods to take a project that would be otherwise a good project into just an exceptional project. It just brings it to the next level. It brings it to a level in which it's more affordable, it's more livable, and it's something that we're really proud of. And one such project that we're working on right now is actually in the Grand with a really great client that Nate's going to talk about.
Yeah, so we just kind of developed a new relationship with this client who asked us to try to figure out how to do affordable housing on this site out in the Grand, and it's a really different kind of place and kind of a rural community, very suburban site. And so it really pushed us to think outside the bounds of sort of the urban environment in Portland that we'd been used to working in. So, really is forcing us to think about sustainability and equity and access in a whole new set of ways on a different kind of site, which is exciting. And the client really just kind of gave us an open book to say, we really just want to serve people in this community. We want to serve this affordable housing need, which is pretty immense out there. We know some of the service partners, and we're partnering with the housing authority. So let's, what can we do? What's the best thing that we can do? And so, which is a great approach, and we're getting to work with a very creative project manager who's kind of a dreamer like us, and pushing into that relationship has enabled a lot of the potential, like Andrea talked about. And that's really where innovation comes from, is people pushing ideas back and forth and seeing what is possible. How do we get to a yes on this? So their goals were to serve the larger community because it's in this really kind of isolated place that doesn't have transit access, doesn't have walkability, and doesn't have parks. And then also, how do we bring down the cost for the residents? How do we make sure that they don't have to pay extra energy costs and all these things beyond the affordable rents that we're shooting to provide for them? And then it really is meant to serve a mix of people with some really unique needs out there. People who are coming out of incarceration, out of the foster system, seniors, veterans, workforce needs, all ranging from 30 to 60% area median income. And so what it's become is really a trauma-informed community for all ages.
So what is that? What is a trauma-informed community, and how does that influence how we approach our design process?
Yeah, that is an excellent question, and one that we had to learn a lot about and research, which is great because it's really the area that we're most interested in, right? It's like, how do we meet people where they are and in their unique place, and not just provide a formulaic response of, here's some housing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it really pushed us to think about the site differently. How do we orient it for views and security and safety, kind of a mix of connection and not isolation, but kind of being able to be away and find peace and privacy. And how do we make sure there's really good solar access and potential to enjoy the views? There's mountains all around. There's and then how do we kind of take this large site that also needs a lot of parking, but make sure that we make the most of the site and access to nature so that your daily experience is able to walk around and and sit on a bench and under some trees, and or like go over and play on a nature play area, or hang out with your family and friends in the field by the community building, these kind of things. So we wanted to create this wide variety of spaces and uses. And one principle that we heard about from a planner in South America is, if you design for people who are 8 and people who are 80, you'll come up with a much more kind of equitable approach to design. And I think that's been a really kind of helpful lens as part of this too, is making sure that everybody can access these things. Everybody has what they need to kind of activate their life, to create social connection and safety.
Yeah. And I think that, really hit the nail on the head. I mean, trauma informed design is really about creating spaces for people that they can feel safe and they can get what they need. And sometimes that means maybe a wide open space. Maybe that's what they need at that time, but it also might mean an area of refuge. So creating a site sign, even just the first step of the process is creating something where you can have a variety of spaces and a variety of ways that people can interact with the space. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've also had a great, the client then, like through an evolving process, that's really kind of how we've come to kind of these design goals. It's just thinking more and more about who are we serving, what do they need. They brought in some public engagement folks who work with seniors, the Center for Public Interest Design at PSU, and they're all kind of working together to actually help us research what the community needs are and how to better respond to those things.
Yeah, so we're focusing so much on what the people need, and kind of this, again, using that term again, that trauma-informed design and community for all ages and all abilities. How does sustainability play into that? It seems like the project might be like trying to take on too much, or is there an easy way to balance? Like, do they speak to each other? Does being able to be trauma-informed also mean that those decisions help support sustainability goals? Because this project is doing a lot.
Yeah, we find them to be mutually reinforcing, I think, as we go through. And, the use of natural materials and the use of sheltering spaces also doubles for sustainability, right? It creates shading, it creates the right balance of solar exposure. So all of these things we've, have kind of come together to create this kind of holistic response that also, lends itself to the net zero pursuit that this project is going after, so that we can make really good use of solar and sustainable technology for the systems. And all of that has been kind of a collaborative testing process, which makes us think of another project that we're also working through permitting on right now.
Yeah,
talk about that?
Yeah, our Habitat project, and that one's interesting because while it wasn't necessarily kind of thought of through the lens of trauma-informed design, it is still a home ownership. It's and that's a huge component actually. So Habitat for Humanity, they actually sell the homes. This is a long-term home ownership opportunity, and a lot of apartments, affordable housing, that's not the case. And while that housing is needed, apartments are always needed, especially in the housing crisis that we have today. What's missing there? That missing link is that opportunity for home ownership, which is actually a wealth creation. And so one of the ways in which somebody, even like myself, in today's day and age, can create wealth is through real estate investment, through purchasing a home, and then being able to pay on that home, and the home value increases, and then being able to sell that for more than what I bought it for, and be able to, do that cycle over until I'm in a place where I'm there permanently. So that piece is missing in a lot of affordable housing, and that's a unique opportunity for that Habitat brings to the table. But a lot of what Nate talked about as far as site design and creating different areas of refuge, areas of kind of communal gathering spaces on the site, that was very, very much thought of for this Habitat project as well. And also the solar orientation. We designed all of the homes to be solar ready. And in conjunction with that, actually, Habitat has another unique opportunity, and that is that they do a ton of volunteer labor, and they also get a lot of their materials donated. So where a project maybe wouldn't necessarily always get continuous insulation on the exterior, especially rigid insulation, we're able to do that on this project because they get their insulation donated. So it doesn't add any cost. And now between some envelope upgrades, as well as some kind of pushing on some of the mechanical systems of the building and being solar ready, we are looking at being able to go net zero. We're actually going after the new PSEF grant that's now available in Portland, which is new and great, and we're really optimistic that we're going to be able to kind of lock in some additional grant funding for that project and be able to bring it to net zero, which is great because now the homeowners don't just have to worry about their mortgage and their electricity bill. Their electricity bill goes to nothing. And so now we can really talk about affordability. That's a couple $100s a month that people are going to be saving in energy bills by being able to kind of marry the two together. And that's similar to the Brighton building, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we went after the Blue Sky grant.
Yeah. So that project, again, just leveraging kind of funding opportunities in unique ways through partnerships was kind of the key story of it. We were able to evolve beyond kind of starting at LEED certification, getting a solar grant, which then led to leveraging Energy Trust incentive money so that it's now 70% better than Energy Code. And that is just going to result in lower rents to the veterans who are transitioning from homelessness into permanent housing. It's 28 units of modular housing that serve them directly. And then the service providers who are managing the project, Do Good Multnomah, they are able to also leverage community partnerships to get micro grants to furnish the apartments and outfit them so that it's ready to go. It's really exciting, and so it's always just about asking the question, how can we make this happen? Where might we fund this?
Yeah. So one thing that's like really important, if I were to just loop it all back around, is that those unique partnerships are really important. The client relationship is very important. Getting service providers, getting organizations that have the ability to help with some of the grants and things will help drive those projects forward in a way that wouldn't otherwise be able to happen. And then just from a design perspective, really just having that tenacious creativity to push the clients, to allow the clients to push us, to be receptive of that feedback, to like constantly be asking the questions, where can we do better, and where do we just say, hey, you guys have this figured out. Let's just do it that way. Being able to be flexible and yet still always pushing the boundaries, always asking the questions. Ask the questions, because if you don't, you'll never know the answer.